I want a loan to start a small business.
Small business.
Small business.
I work for a small business.
A small business.
I'm saving money to buy a small business.
Hello and welcome to the Small Business Survival Guide podcast, where entrepreneurs from the pest world share their tips on how to make their business thrive. Join us as we break down the business game and steer you towards success. We're all from Suburban Pest Management. This company has been around for 30 years. We're an award-winning business, winning Pest Manager of the Year in 2021. We're an ever-growing team reaching nearly 50 staff covering all aspects of pest control. My name is Oscar and I am the humble videographer and content creator here at SPM. And joining me today are the owners of SPM, Tom and Kahlee. How are we today, guys?
Hello.
Going great. Oscar, how are you?
I am absolutely fantastic. So to paint our audience a picture, since this is episode 1, who are you guys? What is your role at SPM? Tom, what do you do?
It's a great question, Oscar.
Yeah.
The title is Managing Director. I guess, I try to oversee and steer the ship, heading in the right direction towards our vision and mission. But yeah, it's certainly evolved over the years.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And Kahlee, tell us a bit about your role being the operations manager, general manager of one of Australia's largest family-owned pest control businesses. What's that like?
Yeah, it's busy. So generally, I am general manager. I manage generally.
Generally? Yeah, nice.
So I oversee most of the admin team as well as helping out with the operations at the moment. So just making sure that the tech team out on the road are doing what they need to do efficiently and to the best of our abilities. So.
Oh, very good. Yeah. Very good. You're all over it. So spoiler alert to everyone listening, Tom and Kahlee are in fact a couple. And you're a couple in business, which is absolutely well. So how did that come, how did this relationship come about? How did you guys meet? What's the story there?
Well, yeah, we have to go back nearly 20 years.
I think that's too far for me.
Yeah.
I was a mere infant then.
We definitely don't look that old either.
No.
It's scary seeing some of the date of births with the younger team start to feel old. If we go all the way back to year 9 was when I first met Kahlee, and I immediately liked her a lot. So I asked her out way back in year 9. And do you remember what you said to me when I asked you out?
Nope.
More or less, I don't think so, was the answer.
Oh no! Was it at like lunchtime or something?
Did you go? I worked up the courage to get her number and give her a phone.
Wow!
And,
on the landline.
On the landline.
Yep.
Oh.
Yep, no mobiles back then.
In front of my parents, and sitting in the kitchen.
So there was a few years there where it was a little bit awkward, and I didn't really chat to her. But then year 12, we started.
You didn't like me at all.
Well, yeah, I'll say that, but also a little bit disappointed. The result, but year 12 we got talking again, and I asked her out to the formal, and then because we were going to the formal, we ended up dating in year 12 and been together ever since. So
wow,
that's how it all started.
That is amazing. So how did you guys get into business together? Because your parents, Tom, Richard, and Angela, Suburban Pest Management was their business. Is their business?
That's right. They created it way back in 1994. So when we finished school in 2005, I was already doing some casual labouring with them. It was actually quite enjoyable over the school holidays with the Christmas period. My cousin James and I would just go and do labouring every day. And if we knocked out the job quick enough, we'd be home by lunchtime or after. And
nice.
Playing ping pong. And I was really enjoying just doing that casual, but then got told, need to make a decision whether I'm staying in the business or not. So chose to do a traineeship as a 17-year-old. So in January 2006, I started as a full-time trainee, got my general pest license, and then into termites. So learned a lot in those early few years.
Yeah, nice. Kahlee, what was your origins at SPM? How did you end up here? Did you have a good contact through Tom to get here?
Yeah. Well, he put in a good word.
Put in a good word, yeah.
So Tom and I had already been together for an hour, a year, and I had worked in Blockbuster since I was 15, and I'd had enough.
Sorry, what's a Blockbuster?
Yeah, I know. Okay. It's a DVD store, guys.
What's a DVD, sorry?
Yeah.
When you had to drive all the way to the store to watch a movie.
Wild.
Yeah. So I worked there for a couple of years and decided that I wanted to try something else, more so in an office space administration. Had no idea what I wanted to do, knew I didn't want to go to university or anything like that. I believed that I didn't need to go to university to succeed. So I went for lots of interviews, and as a 17, nearly 18-year-old, flunked most of them. so embarrassed, so shy. I still think I wouldn't do very well if I didn't went to an interview now. So, but yeah, gave up in the end. And Tom asked his mum if there was any jobs going at Suburban, and she said, "Get her to come and see me." So, I actually had to have this very awkward phone conversation. I remember out on the back patio of Tom's house at the time, because we were chatting. So I had this awkward conversation about whether I wanted to come and work for her and what that involves. So anyway, handed in my resignation, and then I started in January 2007. So quite some time ago. And still trying to work out what I want to do, but never left.
And we're still here. We're still running the ship.
Yeah.
No, that's amazing. That's
Yeah.
really... So what was the year that you guys decided to take over the business or had that conversation with Richard and Angela? What year was that?
Well, I suppose the next few years was more just learning the industry and the skills in the trade, whether it was Kahlee in the admin or myself in the field. But I guess probably, 2-3 years into it, maybe 2009, 2010 was when I felt like it was a natural progression that I wanted to take over the family business. But it was really up to mum and dad when to pull the trigger.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, but yeah, by the time we were 19, 20, we'd built our own house and got our first dog. We were still, even though it wasn't our business, we were still working 50, 60 hours a week, managing different areas of the business ourselves and, learning the different aspects of not just the industry or admin, but, the business side of things.
Yeah.
I guess getting ready for when there was time to take over.
Yeah, wow. I forget how young you guys were then, because I'm 26 now, and I can't imagine like you'd be running the ship by then. That's crazy. So what was some of the like initial challenges? Did you think maybe I'm going in over my head here? You're like, nah, I've got this in the bag, no worries. What was that initially like? Taking over a business as a couple as well, not just individually.
Well, I think it makes it easier that we were both in the business. So back then it was probably easier to learn all the aspects of the business. At first I was processing, we had paperwork orders back then, which we haven't had for so long now, but inputting the data into the system, checking with the guys what they'd done, scheduling next visits on the whiteboard. So I think we only had like 4 or 5 technicians back then. But we had a great rapport with them. So from that perspective, knowing what to do, like I was checking inspection reports back then after a couple of years, learning the pre-con side of things because Tom was pre-con manager and I was really interested in that side of things. So there wasn't an area of the business that we didn't understand, and even Tom was privy to the financials and things like that back then, so that wasn't anything that was too scary. So I think from that perspective I understood the admin and how the processes and the technicians ran, and Tom understood the finances and everything in the back end from that perspective. So I think initially there wasn't anything that we were too concerned about from how to run the business because we were so familiar with it. I think it was, for me, I was nervous. I don't know if I actually wanted to do it back then, because that was a big responsibility for, what were we, 22?
Yeah, 20.
I was turning 23.
Just turned 23.
Yeah, so, and we were getting married.
Was that same
That
year?
year, yeah. So
My goodness gracious.
Well, the way it happened was we got married, and naturally all of your expenses get chewed up into the wedding. So it was already bad enough as it was. We were expecting a decent tax return, and about 8 weeks out from the wedding, for whatever reason, I got an audit on the tax return. And I said, no worries, can I do this tomorrow and get it done so I can get the tax return? And they said, no, it'll take 12 weeks. And
oh, my goodness.
So we eventually got the money after the wedding, but it meant that we didn't have enough money even for the wedding. So that was an interesting time, and my first experience with the tax office. We got another credit card and hopped that for the wedding. And so when we got back from our honeymoon, so we had a great wedding and went to the States for a few weeks. And when we got back, that was when Mum and Dad had decided that they'd had enough. They wanted to move on. So we got a whole 3 weeks to try and recover from a wedding and all the expenses of a honeymoon and work out. I don't even actually know how we did it, but we scraped together about $15,000. Fortunately, the relationship I built with mum and dad over the years, they were kind enough to do a vendor finance arrangement, so we didn't have to borrow money from a bank. We just paid the business off over the next however long. But yeah, it was in many ways it's easier probably taking over a business than starting from scratch. But in many ways, having 9 staff at the time, and as I say, we'd scraped together $15,000, but it was $9,000 for wages each week. So we had to make money pretty quickly, or it would have it would have been ruined pretty quickly. So I think definitely that first month in December was between Christmas and taking over was the hairiest. But with other relationships, we had suppliers that gave us accounts, and somehow we made it through and just knuckled down. And with the work coming in, the team, as you say, Oscar, you're 26, we were 23. We took over, and I'm pretty sure every single staff member was older than us that we now employed. So,
well, what was that like? Did you feel like there was maybe not the respect there because they were used to working for your parents, and now there's these new kids on the blocks? Were you worried about that?
Most of them were pretty good.
I don't feel like it was a fear. I think it didn't come out of left field for them. They knew that it was probably inevitable, but you have to have a strong relationship with any team member. Even in that situation, or when you employ them, you have to have that mutual respect and support each other for it to work. So, as Kahlee said, it wasn't really we'd spent enough years learning all the different aspects of the business. So, I guess from that perspective, people respected that we kind of knew what we were doing, even though we were fresh to it, because we weren't completely lost with it. I think the team were great that we had at the time, but.
Different setup back then too. You were out on the road every day, doing jobs and then coming back 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon checking in. But I was mainly in the office with I think 2 or 3 other ladies we had in the office. So, and one of which was your mum. So she stuck around for a little while just until that changeover happened, and then she moved on. So, it wasn't much different to how it was prior to us taking over.
Well, that's an interesting point, because I was wondering what the partnership dynamic was between you two. Because Tom, I would imagine, as Kahlee just said, you'd be on the road most of the time. So did any of your work, being at the business together, did it overlap initially at the start? Did anything really overlap? Or was it just larger conversations being had between everything overlapped?
It probably runs smoother when I'm busy out on the road, because Kahlee and I won't clash with things. The first 6 months in particular, when I'm busy out there every day, Kahlee, I think a lot of people see me as the face of the business, but the reality is Kahlee's been the operations manager for that 12 years.
Absolutely.
So she might not have the technical knowledge of being on site for all those years, but I think she knows more than pretty much anybody. That even as technicians that come through, she knows the process through and through. And I think that's been a great compliment, is over the years I've actually lent more into not so much the admin side of it, but the system and the process side of it, and the finance side of it, which often it's the other way. The husband might be more of the ops manager, the technical, dealing with the guys day to day. And it was kind of flipped for us, which even though Kahlee still runs the accounts and everything, I'm a lot more involved than people realised, I guess. And Kahlee was a lot more involved with the day-to-day operations than most people probably give her credit for.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what was that transitional period like right when you started working together, taking over the business 10 years ago? How have your roles evolved since then, or are they stayed pretty much the same, just with added extras now?
It's different.
It's different?
Yeah.
Well, technology's evolved as well.
Yeah.
So it's differences. As you were saying, you were doing everything by hand back in the day, and now there's systems in place, which is not as simple as it sounds still.
No.
But it's definitely a different time.
Yeah. Our roles have evolved and changed, and me in particular, trying to move into more of a overseeing the business role rather than working in it. depending on what's happening that year, as we know with COVID and staff changes and everything that's been going on the last few years, it's been a lot.
It's wild.
Being pulled back into the business versus working on the business feels like it happens more often for me. I'm also in touch with what's going on all the time. So, and I was a scheduler more than anything when I first started, and that's what I enjoy most, scheduling. And not many people can schedule efficiently, in my opinion. So we have a scheduler here, and she's excellent. But when she goes on holidays, the only other person that can jump in is me. So I do find myself being pulled in whichever direction at times, and that has been the case for a long time. So whereas, I mean, Tom was out on the tools for quite a while. Even in year 3, 4 of ownership, he was still going out and quoting and
even
doing
when I started
soil
4 years
treatments
ago, I was on jobs with Tom.
Yeah, so I guess we have to do what the business needs at that time.
Absolutely.
There's no doubt you wear many hats as the business owner. And you can change hats 5 times in the same day. And so we've been running it for 12 years now, and it's really only been the last 2 years that I've stopped being on the tools and being out there all the time. So it's a key part of it. You have to be able to support the team and drive the revenue. But now that, as soon as we got over 20 staff, from 9 through to about 20 staff was when, Kahlee and I probably knew every job, every client, everything that was going on in the business. And when we kind of got beyond that number, that's when we had to start to trust the team to know a lot of that detail. So I wouldn't know 80-90% of the jobs that are going into the schedule every day now, because there's other key aspects that I'm concerned with. And so getting used to those things, not having a handle on the specifics, but having a handle on the important stuff like the numbers and the team culture and what's really the biggest issues. Focusing on it, I guess.
And I miss seeing you out on the road because you're so good at what you do.
You are.
Yeah.
And I don't annoy her in the office as much.
No, but really, best salesperson I've ever seen, and your knowledge around the termites and treating them and, getting them out of the building and things like that. There's not many like that. And you've learnt that from your dad. So
absolutely.
Very good talker, as we know. So, and just being able to explain and train techs. So as a business owner and as you grow, that's one thing I've noticed is you might be good at things, but it doesn't mean that you can keep doing it if you want the business to keep evolving and growing as well. You need to employ other people to do that for you. So,
and have strong communication with them and passing it. Because I've been on jobs with Tom, and yes, you are an excellent salesperson. And I've also seen like a lot of your employees do some like sales stuff that I didn't know they had in them at all. So I think, absolutely passing it down and communicating with the team. But speaking of communication, what's the communication like between yourselves? Are you able to have that work-life balance? Or is it what I don't know. I don't want to get too much. Is that a challenge for you, finding the time for life and kids and dogs and stuff? Absolutely.
Without a doubt.
Something we struggle with.
Without a doubt, the biggest strain on our relationship has always been the business. At anything, kids, financials.
It's a huge commitment.
The business is a massive challenge, and it consumes you. It consumes your whole life. You do find it hard not to bring it home with you, and when things aren't going well. Well, like I say, if we're not agreeing on stuff, then it can come home with you. But communication, as you say, it's really important to be open and discussing those things and trying as best you can to put work away for the night or for the weekend and still enjoy that family life balance. Because otherwise, it would destroy your relationship.
No, absolutely. Well, from the outset, I think you guys are doing a tremendous job, and I very much enjoy being here. And it was different, like you guys being a couple. In my interview, I had no idea you guys were a couple. I didn't even realize that there was another person in the interview who I thought was the boss. I didn't realize you two were the ones pulling the strings.
Because you were too busy stressing about being late.
Being late for the interview. Yeah, we'll get that out in episode 1. It was raining and I missed 2 trains, okay, everyone? Gosh. But there's plenty of other couples that go into business. What advice would you have for that? Would you recommend it at the end of the day? What's your experience? What would you say to them?
Be
supposed to
honest.
be inspirational.
It's,
isn't
it doesn't have to. You can be
Don't do
practical.
it.
You can be practical.
Yeah.
The truth is, our recommendation is don't go into business with your partner. From the perspective of it's extremely challenging. So
Absolutely.
on the flip side, going into business completely on your own would be no doubt extremely challenging as well. And then you do have the challenges of if you go into business with other people that aren't your partner, then you may have different agendas or different goals or different visions. And I've seen plenty of those that don't work out and get messy as well. So,
But just it seems natural to go into business or partnership with your partner. Generally, what we see is those that have kids and the wife is at home and they have a few hours here and there to help out with the invoicing and things like that. So naturally, it makes sense. And it's so hard to get staff at the moment. Do you really want staff when you first start out? Depending, maybe not. So yeah, it naturally, we know so many people have gone into business as husband and wife, and it works, we think, from the outside. But from our experience, I mean, we work really well together, polar opposites. As long as Tom stays out of my business and I stay out of his, we work really well.
Yeah.
It's when we get that crossover where we might not agree with what each other wants to do that,
certain
doesn't
decisions
necessarily
don't
go
align.
too well.
Well, that's interesting.
But yeah, we've had to do lots of personal development and learning the tools to deal with not only this with staff, but also how we communicate with each other as well. So the lines are blurred when you work with your partner. So, you know, when emotions are high and things happen at work and then you go home and they look at you the wrong way or something, it's very easy to lose sight of what's going on. So I might be,
Yeah, and like I say, it could be at work. We're meant to be wearing our general manager and director hats, and you might be wearing a wife hat or a mum and dad hat.
Yeah.
And so that gets messy. What is the conversation? Or if you go home and it should be family time and you're having
It's
a
fun,
general
it's finding
manager.
that line.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And yeah, you're only human, so
Yeah.
you know exactly.
Yeah. And
And I think
I think for us, sorry,
you
cut you off like I do.
no.
I think for us, we've grown so quickly. So, you know, like we said, we started when we had 9 staff at the time, and now we have nearly, like you said, nearly 50. And it's grown really fast. If you look at, it's been 3-4 years, we had 20 staff back
absolutely.
then. So whilst it doesn't feel like it was that fast, it's fluctuated, hasn't it? So
Yeah, ebbed and flowed definitely.
it's not something that I personally have learnt from reading a manual or going to uni or doing a certificate in management like a lot of people do. I think learning on the job is how you learn, and
Absolutely.
dealing with so many different types of people, and everyone has something going on now. It's a different, like we always have, but it's a different world we live in now.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I won't get started on that, but yeah.
Another episode in itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I was going to say, we talk about not necessarily being the best option to go into business with your partner, but I think it does come down to what your goal is.
Absolutely.
If you were just going to, as Kahlee said, have no staff and you are really disciplined and just sticking to certain hours each week, and your partner, one or the others, doing the work, the others doing the admin or the books, and you can find that balance, then it sounds brilliant. And in theory, that's what everyone's goal is to make lots of money and just have this perfect family balance. And it's always funny because I wouldn't know anybody that's gone into business that hasn't actually gone the opposite way, where you end up with even less money, less time, and more stress.
True.
And often it can be something you climb out of, and other times it can be people give up on it and go, well, you know what, it's a lot easier just to go and work for someone. So you really have to be clear on what you're trying to achieve going into business together and the goal. Because if it's just about the money, then you can lose focus pretty quickly.
Absolutely.
It's always about the money. You need to make money, or you're not going to be in business long. But if it's just the goal, if that's the only end goal, you can get lost pretty quickly on the journey.
No, that is sound advice. Absolutely. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Tom and Kahlee, because that is the end of episode 1.
Wow.
Can you believe it?
I could keep talking.
I know. Well, we will. But we're going to start a tradition now at the end of one of these episodes. We've got a little bit of pest insect trivia. So buzz in, fingers on buzzers.
We're very competitive.
And you can play along at home if you're listening. So, what is the only insect that can turn its head 180 degrees?
Oh my God.
You get any guesses? Any buzzers?
Yeah, I'm
People at home are
I'm probably
screaming.
supposed to know all these questions.
Is it an ant?
No, it's not an ant.
Man.
Did you say insect or
It's an insect.
Yeah.
It's not a pest.
second turn? Its head 180 degrees.
180 degrees.
Must be a grasshopper or something.
Yeah, well, praying mantis can turn a long way, but
Oh, that'd be so annoying if you got that right.
It is the praying mantis,
I
yes.
gave that to you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for listening to episode 1. Tune in next week for some more trivia questions and some valuable insight from the small business world. Thank you, Tom and Kahlee.
Thank you.
thank you. Stay classy,
See you
Queensland.
next time.
I want a loan to start a small business. I work for a small business.
I'm saving money to buy a small business.